Damn it. Patrick Mahomes is the new GOAT. All right?
Going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Mike here, Sports of the Real Podcast. Appreciate you guys joining me once again. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share and all that. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, it should be there. If it's not, let me know. Don't forget to leave your comments, your questions, what you don't like and like. As always, I appreciate you guys following along on social media and elsewhere. All right, let's get right into it. So the Super Bowl is over. Just as fast as it came, it's over. 2023-24 season is over. NFL is a wrap. Till, I don't know, another lunar eclipse. I don't know, man. Feels like it takes forever to get back. Although, it doesn't take as long to get back as it used to when I was a child, right? When I was younger. For those old heads like myself, we remember the days when there was nothing else on TV, right? After football ended, after basketball ended, Sundays were blank, man, and it seemed like football took forever to come back. And that's when previously, right now, Super Bowl is like middle of February now. Before, football used to end like end of January. We were done. And then it was like, what's next? Nobody was watching the combine like that. There wasn't much to do. There wasn't no off-season trade talks like that. It was dead, man. It was a dead period. There wasn't no NBA TV where you could watch everybody's game every night. Like if you weren't watching the Bulls on WGN or your local team, it was a struggle. Try to watch baseball when baseball comes on. In April, May time frame. But like I said before, man, kids nowadays have so many options they don't even have to get into other sports. Like they could just be a football fan. Because there's going to be podcasts on podcasts breaking down the Super Bowl, breaking down each game this season and what the teams did well, what they need to plan for next year and upcoming draft picks and free agency. I mean, football is a year-round sport now, year-round coverage. So if you're just an NFL fan, you ain't got nothing to worry about nowadays because you could follow along all types of, conversations throughout the offseason. But 20, 30 years ago, it was dead time, bro. And it seemed like football took 5 years to get back. But yeah, it's all over. So I wanted to do a quick recap of the Super Bowl. Obviously, once again, I am bad at predicting because I picked the 49ers to win the joint and they let me down. Again. I'm going to say this, man. Kyle Shanahan is a hell of a coach. Kyle Shanahan is a really, really good coach. But for him to take the next step, and some people are saying, well, he doesn't have an all-star quarterback like Mahomes. He doesn't have his Brady. But his quarterbacks have gotten them leads. Even as an offensive coordinator of the Falcons, 28-3, that game was over. Patriots had no business winning that game, but for whatever reason, boneheaded play calls, instead of running out the clock, making smart plays. They decided to throw and, turnovers happen. And next thing you know, Patriots are winning in overtime. Crazy game. Falcons should have won that game. Fast forward to recent Super Bowls that he's been in as a head coach with the 49ers. He's had the lead, 10 plus points. And somehow, some way, his teams let them go, either through conservative play calling or too aggressive with his play calling. Like he just, in the biggest of moments as a head coach, Kyle Shanahan hasn't mastered it yet. Mastered when to push on the gas more, when to let go. And I knew the Chiefs were going to win that game, man, because the 49ers defense pretty much pitched a shutout the whole first half. Only reason, KC was able to even get close to scoring was because of a fumble and a punt, right? And a punt that went wrong. Other than that, like, the defense played well, but after all of that domination and San Fran resetting the line of scrimmage and KC couldn't do nothing on offense, they go into halftime and it's 10-3. I'm like, damn, it's over. It's over. You can't dominate a team as good as the Chiefs and just go into halftime 10-3 after all of that. That let me know, something's up, man. So Kyle Shanahan, again, fantastic coach, great coach, but he's going to have to learn to, in the biggest of moments, to come out with his best stuff, man. You can't be too conservative playing against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, these boys are going to score anytime. You know it. Like, you're not going to hold them down all game. So you're going to have to do what you need to do, like, to mix it in. You can't run every first down. You can't go hyper crazy either and throw the ball all the time, but you can't go into a shell and try to kill the clock against KC. And when you have unfortunate things happen, like a muff punt, right, or the punt bounces off the guy's leg, and the returner tries to recover, and as football goes, the ball never bounces the way you want it to. And next thing you know, you can't do nothing about it. So Shanahan's going to have to learn to manage big games and in order for them to win a Super Bowl. In addition, and this is where the difference between him and Andy Reid came out. So they went to overtime, as you guys know, and it comes out after the overtime, after the game, that 49ers players are like, we didn't know what to expect in overtime. We didn't know the overtime rules. But on the other side, you hear Kansas City players talking about, we knew exactly what to do. We knew even if we won a coin toss, we knew to defer to let them go first. We would go second. Like, we knew everything about overtime. They talked about overtime all week in the rules and how it would play out. They knew the ins and outs. Whereas 49ers, they didn't know anything about overtime. They didn't know the new overtime rules. And that right there, to me, is one of the big differences between Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. Like, Andy Reid, because he's gone through this so many times, he's mastered what he needs to know, what he needs to do, and what his team needs to know. He's mastered it. He knows that, we got to drill everything. We got to practice for every possible scenario, right? And probably that's because, going up against Bill Belichick in the playoffs and stuff, he knows, he sees the way Bill Belichick knows the ins and outs of every single rule. So now Andy Reid knows the ins and outs of everything. He knows to prepare his team for every possible scenario, everything that could come up. Whereas Kyle Shanahan's players are like, nah, we didn't really know what to do in the overtime period. We didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't know each team got a possession. We ain't know. Chiefs players were like, we knew exactly what was going to happen. We knew if we won the coin toss, we would defer. They would go down. If they scored a touchdown, we knew we had to score a touchdown and maybe get a 2-point conversion to go home. They knew it all. And you only gain that stuff through coaching or repetition. And after a while, when you lose enough, you start to get that knowledge. You realize what you're doing wrong and what you're missing on to do it right the next time. But if you're a gambling person, never go off of what I say, man. FYI, I have never won a bet on sports in my life. Never. Whether it was for free, handshake agreement, dollars, dating back to like middle school. I have never won a bet. Part of it is betting on my teams hasn't been favorable for me because my teams haven't been great all the time. But even when my teams are pretty good, they, for whatever reason, lose the games that I bet on. So I don't bet. That's why all this DraftKings and all these sport books, and You can miss me with that. I ain't never doing that because I have never won a bet for no dollars, little dollars, big dollars. And I'll never be betting. Never. So that comes with preparation, man. That comes with repetition. And eventually Kyle will break through. Unfortunately, in the NFL, you don't know when that opportunity is going to come again, man. You don't know when's the next time you're going to sit up there and have a chance to, get everybody healthy. Like, I don't think the 49ers had any serious injuries. Of course, Dre Greenlaw gets injured in the game, which is a freak accident, the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like getting ready to run on the field and your ACL messes up. Like, never seen that. But they were really, really healthy. And you don't know in the NFL when you'll be that healthy again to be able to get back to the chip. So you got to capitalize every time. And unfortunately, he ran into a team that already knew how to capitalize, already knew how to win these big games. So when you're going against a team like that, you got to slay the dragon. And slaying the dragon is not easy. As a lot of fans are complaining after the game, San Francisco fans are complaining, and I'm not going to disagree with them at all. San Francisco fans were complaining about the refereeing in the game, and I'm not going to say it was wrong to complain. Like, it's wrong to show clips of, the Chiefs players holding. 49ers fans were right to complain. Like, the refereeing sucked in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, it appeared. It seemed like every time Nick Bosa turned a corner, one of the linemen grabbed him. Clear as day. And I'm not even a big lineman guy. I don't really watch linemen play because I feel like they hold every play anyway. But some of those were so egregious. I was like, damn, how did they not call that? Like, Nick Bosa gets around the left tackle and he literally, puts him in a chokehold. Like, you got to call that, ref. It's right in front of you. So it's totally fair for San Francisco 49ers fans to feel they got robbed. They got cheated. Because it feels like you're playing Pat, you're playing Kelsey, you're playing Andy Reid, and you're playing the referees. That's what it feels like. But unfortunately, nobody's going to feel sorry for you 49ers fans because that's just how it is. And you should know that. If you're going to slay the dragon, you got to play the players, you got to play against the coach, and you got to play against the refs. That's always how it is, man, in these dynasties as they're building or as they're continuing. If you watch sports for any period of time, you know that. You know that's how it works. If you're going to beat the dynasty, you got to beat the players and the refs. The leagues ain't going to admit that. The NFL's not going to admit that. They're not going to admit that, the referees made favorable calls for the Chiefs, but that's how it is. It's always been like that. If you're going to beat the dynasty, you're going to have to beat the team and the refs. That's why being up just 10-3 at halftime wasn't enough. Because it's an uphill climb, man. You're fighting like these dynasties get the benefit of the doubt every time. And you would have to adjust for that, accommodate for that. You have to know that's going to happen. Like, think about any football or basketball dynasty. Like Tom Brady and the Patriots, they got calls all the time. Patriots fans know this. If they're honest with themselves, Patriots fans know this. They got all the calls. All the 50-50 calls went to the Patriots. Yeah, they could say the NFL was after them for Spygate and for Deflategate, but game action, like the Patriots got large majority of the calls. Hell, their dynasty started on a shady as hell call. On a fumble. The dynasty started on a fumble. That lets you know all you need to know. But Tom Brady and the Patriots got all the calls. So, yeah, that's how it is. If you're going to slay the dragon, you got to beat the players. You got to beat Pat. You got to beat Kelsey. You got to beat Andy Reid. Hell, Spagnuolo. And you got to beat the refs. That's how it is. Football, basketball, for those who remember, like, Lakers and Sacramento Kings. Game 7. Like, the Lakers got all the damn calls that game. If you're going to beat the Dynasty, man, you got to be prepared to beat that team and the refs. And NBA players have come out and said that. Like, if you're going to beat the Heat with LeBron, the Heatles and LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, you got to beat them by so much that the refs don't play a role, because the refs, the whistle is going to keep them close. It's going to happen. You got to expect that. So 49ers fan, I'm not saying you shouldn't be mad, you shouldn't complain. That's just the way it is, man. If you're going to beat the Dynasty, be ready to like go up against them and the refs. The leagues are never going to admit that, but that's the way it is. If you're going to beat LeBron, whether it's the Heat, whether even the Lakers now, people complain the Lakers get way more foul calls and way more foul shots than other teams, you got to beat them and the refs. If you're going to beat the Warriors in their heyday, peak Warriors, you had to beat Steph, you had to beat Clay, and you had to beat Draymond's illegal screens. That's how it was. That's how it was. If you're going to beat the Dynasty team, you have to be ready to not only beat them and have the perfect game plan, but you got to beat them so bad that the refs don't come into play. And unfortunately for the 49ers, they kept the game close, man. They had a chance. Their defense was stifling. And instead of stepping on the gas, whether it was, through mistakes or, through player mistakes, coaching mistakes, they weren't able to extend the lead and put a big enough gap between them so that the refs didn't play a role in it. But eventually the refs are going to play a role somehow. You're just going to have to blow them out enough so the refs can't do nothing about it. It's unfortunate, but that's reality, man. If you're going to beat the great Dynasty, if you're going to knock them off, you got to be ready to knock them off and the refs. Like, come on, let's be honest. Like, Draymond and the Warriors, they got calls. They were allowed to defend like other teams. Even now, Draymond gets to do things that other guys aren't allowed to do. That's a fact. Even now, people are complaining about the Lakers getting too many foul calls. And the disparity in the free throw shooting numbers shows that it's true. But y'all remember those Lakers Kings series, man. It's like, damn, they're not, NBA ain't letting the Lakers lose this game at all. And as a Dolphins fan, I watched the Patriots get some of the craziest calls, regular season or playoffs. Like, oh yeah, nobody else. Tom Brady, only Tom Brady gets that PI, roughing the passer. It's an unfortunate situation, man. I feel for you guys, 49ers fan, but that's just the way it is. So next time when you get in there, be ready to blow that team out. Because if it's the Chiefs again and you keep it close, you never know what can happen. The refs are on their side. The best quarterback in the league is on their side. The best coach in the league is on their side. The best tight end in the league is on their side. Their defensive coordinator is the best big game defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo, shout out, man. Because as much as their defense was sus during the year, they gave up a lot of rushing yards. In the playoffs, he finds a way to adjust so that he finds a weakness in your offense, and he exposes that. So while the offense and Patrick Mahomes gets all the credit, the defense, was averaging, keeping everybody to like 17 points. That's incredible because they went in against some high-powered. They went against the Dolphins, a high-powered offense. They went against the Bills, a high-powered offense. They went against Lamar and the Ravens, a high-powered offense. They went against the 49ers, a high-powered offense. And throughout it all, 17-point average per game in that defense. So we can give Pat all the credit. He deserves the credit. We can give Andy the credit. He deserves the credit. I've already talked about Andy Reid being possibly the GOAT coach. And I stick to that. But we got to shout out the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, man. Because he in big games, he knows what to do. He was a defensive coordinator for those Giants teams that won the Super Bowl with Shanahan and the boys. So if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you got to be ready to beat Pat. You got to be ready to beat Travis. You got to be ready to be outcoach Andy Reid. You got to be ready to outcoach T. Spagnuolo. And you got to beat the refs. That's just the way it is. Your team got to be on their stuff, bro, to beat those cats. Or you going home. One way or another. You are going home. So shout out to the Chiefs, man. Shout out to the Chiefs. And I'm going to say this as I move on. I've been hesitant. It pains me to say this. I've been hesitant to admit this. The day has come where I have to admit that my favorite quarterback growing up, Dan Marino, is not the greatest of all time anymore. I just have to admit it. Dan the man formerly known as the arm of God in Florida. Dan Marino is not the greatest quarterback. I just have to. Dan Marino's not the greatest quarterback ever anymore. Even as Tom Brady won his 7 Super Bowls, I always thought that Tom Brady was not a better quarterback than Dan Marino. He just happened to play on better teams. But damn it, Patrick Mahomes is the new GOAT. All right? I have to admit it. And people can say whatever they want, recency bias, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to hear it, man. This dude, Patrick Mahomes, is like that. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback ever. Here's why I say that. My opinion. All right? In my opinion, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback ever. He is GOAT status right now. All right? I know Brady has 7. I don't think Patrick needs 7 to be considered the GOAT. And that's what happens when you compare, all you do in football conversations or in sports conversations is compare rings. Because it becomes so simplistic. It's like, well, this guy has 7, this guy doesn't have 7. Well, he's got to be better. No. If you watch the game, you're like, damn, this guy, Patrick Mahomes, he's the GOAT, man. What can you say? What can you say? The rings argument is so simplistic. So I think he's better than Brady. He's the GOAT above Brady, even without 7 rings, right? Like people say, well, Jordan's the GOAT because he has 6 rings. No, he's not. It's not because he has 6 rings, Jordan's the GOAT. Jordan is the GOAT because he simply is the best basketball player ever. By the time Michael Jordan had retired, he had mastered every facet of basketball. Every offensive skill, every defensive skill, Michael Jordan had mastered it. So even before he won 6, if you were watching, nobody was still saying Bill Russell's the best basketball player ever, even when Jordan was sitting on 3 and 4. You could watch the game and see, man, this cat was different. So when you're watching the NFL, you can see, man, this cat Mahomes is different. He does not need 7. He moves different. He is physically gifted. He's smart. He's mentally tough. He's competitive as hell. He has it all. And you could say, yeah, it's his era. It makes it easier. All that is true. You can say, yeah, he came into a great situation. All that is true. Yeah, the referees are on his side. All that is true. They were on Brady's side too. All that is true. But that does not negate the fact that this brother is just a flat-out baller, and he has mastered football. And right now, if you're going to beat them, it's going to be hard as hell because his coach is an offensive mastermind. His defensive coordinator is a master. If he never gets a head coaching job again, he'll stay there and just win a bunch of games. And now Patrick Mahomes has reached the realm where Tom Brady was at, where mentally he's got you beat. He's got you beat mentally, and there's nothing your defense could do, right? You can't really do nothing about it. He knows what to expect. And just when you think you got him, his little shuffling ass goes scooting around for 15 yards. And that, to me, is what makes him the GOAT. Because while Tom Brady was a great quarterback, he's a really smart dude, one of the smartest quarterbacks ever, one of the toughest cats ever, one of the most competitive dudes ever, Tom Brady was like that. It's not taken away from Tom, but when you watch Pat, it's just a little something extra, man. Not only does he have the smarts and the IQ and the toughness and the mental toughness and the competitive spirit, not only does he have all that, but he is far more physically gifted than Tom Brady was. Tom Brady, in terms of physical gifts, he wasn't much of a scrambler, and his arm was okay. But he wasn't as physically gifted as Pat is. So Pat has all of these physical tools at his disposal. He can make every throw, op platform, whatever it is. He can run. Like, there is no answer for Patrick. There is no right answer for playing Patrick Mahomes. If you blitz him, he got you. If you sit back, he got you. With Tom Brady, I felt like there was kind of an answer for him. Like, and the Giants kind of had the answer. It was like, rush 4 and, cover the rest. Get pressure with 4. That's how the Giants beat him. Get pressure with 4. And that was always the formula for beating Tom Brady. Get pressure with 4. And if you can do that, then you can beat Tom Brady. Get him off his spot. He can't really move like that. He can't really run. You'll frustrate him, and you can beat him. Now, not many people were successful at that, but there was an answer for beating Tom Brady. As I'm watching Patrick Mahomes, there are no answers for him. There are no answers for defending him. And that's how it felt as a Bulls fan. I can't imagine going back in my mind's eye now, there are no right answers for playing Michael Jordan. You push up on him, he's going around you, and he's dunking on your team. You lay off of him, he's hitting the J easy. He had the post game, dribble, like he had it all. He was strong enough, like there was nothing you can do with Michael Jordan. He had mastered the game of basketball. And as I watch Patrick Mahomes, man, he has mastered quarterback play. So now it's going to be hard as hell to beat this cat. So Patrick Mahomes, as we stand today, to me is the GOAT. He is Brady plus the physical gifts. That's my opinion. And again, I feel like every QB in the past has had weaknesses, right? Peyton Manning, for all his IQ and his intelligence, in the big games, he kind of crumbled. His playoff record says so. His playoff stats, even in Super Bowl years, say so. He wasn't that great in the playoffs. I already talked about Brady and his limitations. He couldn't really move like that. Like there was an answer. Drew Brees, he had his limitations. Aaron Rodgers, who next to Dan Marino to me has the best arm talent ever. Aaron Rodgers in big games, like in the playoffs, he had some stinkers, man. He wasn't like that. Aaron Rodgers is still one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks. Like his arm talent is amazing. His accuracy was on point. But he had some playoff stinkers. So far, like, Pat hasn't really had playoff stinkers outside of the Super Bowl game where they couldn't protect him. This dude has mastered every skill. So like Michael Jordan, man, it's like, how do you beat this guy? There are no right answers. And with Andy Reid calling plays, how do you beat this guy, man? So yeah, Pat is the GOAT, man. We have to admit it. Pat, I hate Tom Brady, okay? I'm a Dolphins fan. I hate Tom Brady, to be perfectly honest. But I respect the dude's accomplishments. And 7 rings ain't no joke. But when you watch Patrick Mahomes play, it's like you pressure him, you think you got him, and then he takes a little, can't even run straight, shuffling himself. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to watch, man. It's amazing to watch how he operates, how he's able to, no matter what, he finds a way to get things done, man. He throws to his receiver on a game, fourth quarter. He throws to his receiver, and instead of it being close to second and short or whatever, I think it's overtime, throws to MVS. Instead of it being second and short, the guy loses yards. It's now second and 14. We're like, yes, the 49ers got them, but no, somehow the next play this guy makes the plays and they march down and score. There's never a time when you feel like, oh man, you could relax and say, oh, we got him. That's the sign of a great quarterback, man. And when I call him the GOAT, it's not that he's the best at everything, okay? The GOAT doesn't mean he's the best at everything. Like Michael Jordan is not the greatest basketball player because he was the best at everything. He didn't have the best handles. Kobe might have had better handles than Michael Jordan, but Michael had no holes, and that's the sign of the great quarterback. They have no holes. There is nothing you can say, hey, we're gonna get Pat here. He has no holes in his game, and when you match that with the physical gifts, that's what you get. Michael Jordan wasn't the best three-point shooter, but he shot well enough. He was good, right? Some of the other cats people call greats, they have holes in their game. Whether it's free throw shooting, jump shooting, they have holes in their game. Like Michael Jordan had no holes in his game. Plus, he was an ultimate competitor. Plus, he was a physical freak. Like all that added to it. And eventually, when you watch this guy, you're like, damn, this guy is the greatest. Like there's nobody who plays basketball like him, who has played basketball like him, and since who has played basketball like Michael Jordan. That's why he's a GOAT. Not because he's the best at every single skill. He just mastered every skill enough to where his game had no holes. Some people tell you Michael wasn't like the best dunker. Vince Carter was probably the best in-game dunker. But when you watch Michael Jordan play, man, like he mastered every skill, and Patrick Mahomes has mastered every skill. And to me, he doesn't need 7 to go up there and be the GOAT. You can watch this guy now and be like, damn, you got to admit it. He got the arm talent. He's tough. He scrambles, so you can't say, let's pressure him. He can't get out of it. He's quicker than you think, than he looks. And he's mentally tough and makes plays, man. You got to hand it to him. And it's sad because my guy, Dan Marino, for so long was my GOAT because, and I still feel this. I still feel like Dan Marino has, as far as arm talent, Dan Marino still has the best arm talent, meaning arm strength plus velocity plus accuracy plus the quick release. Like the man had a mechanical arm. So Dan Marino, to me, is still the best arm talent, the best thrower of the football the NFL has ever seen. But in terms of just pure quarterback play, the guy that, seems to always come through, it's Patrick, man. He doesn't need 7. People are going to say, well, Tom beat him in the playoffs. Tom beat him in the Super Bowl. First of all, Tom's defenses, just beat him. But it's not quarterback versus quarterback. But that still doesn't matter. Like, when you watch the guy play, that's like saying Isaiah Thomas beat Michael Jordan. And when you watch them in the playoffs, when you watch them play football, when you watch Patrick Mahomes play football, there's just something, man, about this guy. Not only is he physically talented, but he just finds a way to win games. Josh Allen is more physically talented than Patrick Mahomes. I said it last time I recorded. Josh Allen is more physically talented than Patrick Mahomes. If Josh Allen were to put performances up like Patrick Mahomes, he would be considered the GOAT right now because he is more physically gifted than Pat. He is a better runner. His arm is stronger. Like, there's nothing Pat can do physically that Josh Allen can't do. But when it comes time to win big games, there is nobody like Patrick Mahomes right now. And unfortunately, man, we're watching the GOAT. So Kansas City Chiefs fans, enjoy, man. It's going to be hard as hell to beat y'all. You got yourself the GOAT. You can go to sleep at night. The Chiefs fans can go to sleep at night knowing that they got the best quarterback ever on their team. Just like Bulls fans, we went to sleep every night knowing we got the best damn basketball player on our team. And he was never going to lose. He was never going to let us down. You expected Michael Jordan to make every big shot. Chiefs fans have that in Patrick Mahomes. They have a guy who they believe will never let them down, is never going to lose again. And that's crazy because he's still young. 3 already? Whew. Good luck to the rest of the league, man. He's going to be breaking hearts for a long time. So shout out to Pat, man. I think the greatest quarterback ever. We're witnessing in real time. This generation is witnessing the greatest quarterback ever. So having said that, the Chiefs now have a dynasty. The Kansas City Chiefs are now a dynasty. Like I said, in order to beat a dynasty now, you're going to have to find a way to beat the best quarterback. You're going to have to find a way to beat probably the best head coach ever. Probably the best big game defensive coordinator ever. And the refs. They have a dynasty. So to beat them is going to be a tall task. And listen, sorry to break it to you, everybody. Sorry to break the news, okay? Next year, I'm going to warn you now. Next year, don't fall for the bait, okay? Save your time, save your emotions, because next year, inevitably, the Chiefs are going to have a 2-game losing streak. You're going to lose 3 games in 4 weeks, 3 games in 5 weeks. All the talking heads and pundits on TV are going to be asking, what the hell is wrong with the Chiefs? And if you're smart, you're going to be like, damn it, we've seen this movie before. Don't tell me, no, ask me what's wrong with the Chiefs, bro. Ain't nothing wrong with the Chiefs. We've seen this before, so don't worry about it. Let's talk to me in the playoffs. So next year, I don't mean to make it boring for you, all right? I don't mean to break the news, right, or kill the news that you're going to hear next year, next October, when the Chiefs are on a 2-game losing streak, and somebody's going to ask, what's wrong with the Chiefs? What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? Do they need another receiver? Don't fall for the bait, man. The Chiefs are just fine. Just wait for the playoffs. That's all I got to tell you. All right? Sorry to kill it, to kill the emotions, right? Cut off a couple of, segments on ESPN and SportsCenter and NFL Live or whatever. There's no drama. There absolutely is zero drama. The Chiefs have reached a point like where the Warriors were a few years back, where the NBA season was so boring because we pretty much knew who was going to win. That's how good they are. We pretty much knew the Warriors were going to win. The Chiefs have reached that point in their dynasty where no matter how they look in the regular season, they lose a couple games, people are going to ask, what's wrong? Don't fall for the bait, man. We already know the story. We've been here, man. We've been there and done that. All we need to wait for to see is somebody going to have enough guts to go out there and actually beat them down in the playoffs. Is some quarterback going to have the ability to stand in there and go toe-to-toe with KC's defense, and knowing that Pat Mahomes is probably going to score his, I'm going to respond and score mine. Some coach is going to have to game plan and be hella prepared to beat the Chiefs. Some defensive coordinator is going to have to put the game plan of his life to beat Patrick Mahomes. That's how it's going to have to be. So it's just like the way it was with the Warriors, man. Like, you just knew that team was so good, so well put together, so well coached. Steph Curry was so on top of his game that no matter what happened in the regular season, they were going to be there at the end. Only difference between the Warriors and this Chiefs team is that Pat doesn't need KD. In fact, Pat lost his KD. Pat Mahomes' KD, which made them unfair, was Tyreek Hill. Pat doesn't need KD, man. He got his Scotty. He got his Phil Jackson. He's ready to roll, man. He's Jordan. Let's go. Check ball. You got to come ready to play, man. Because this team, no matter what happens, I'm warning you now, anything you hear in the regular season, don't worry about it. Oh, they need more weapons. Have other teams solve the Chiefs? I promise you, you're going to hear that next year. And I'm going to tell you, when somebody says that next year, change the channel. Turn the TV off. Because until somebody does it in the playoffs, these guys are going to run the table. We can assume these guys are going to run the table as long as everybody stays healthy, man. They got a freaking dynasty. It's sad to see. As a fan of another team, it's sad to watch somebody else have a dynasty. We just gotta agree to it, man. Shake their hands, tip our hat to them, and say, "Hey, man, when y'all done, let us know. When you're done winning, Pat, that's what it is now. When you're done winning, Pat, let us know." Because he's reached a status where it's like, okay, you like that, bro. Yeah, I should have caught him a couple years ago. Now that he knows what time it is, he can process the game mentally, physically. He's like that. You got it, bro. You got it, man. Let us know when you're done winning. Because it's going to be hard as hell to beat those boys. So that was my take on the Super Bowl, man. Really good game. Unfortunate for the 49ers. I was rooting for them because not that I watch that much TV anyway, but having this Travis Kelce, and I ain't going to say her name on my podcast. Having this Travis Kelce and you know who on my screen all the time was getting annoying as hell. I ain't going to lie. But hey, they won. They deserve the coverage. And they got the baddest man in the game right now. And the baddest man ever on their team. So one last thing before I hop out of here, y'all, is they made the Pro Football Hall of Fame selections and for next year. And I'm going to say this, man, real quick. I don't know what the requirements are to make the Hall of Fame, but it just varies. Like, what is the true criteria, man? Because nothing against Dwight Freeney. Devin Hester deserved it, no doubt. Dwight deserved it. Andre Johnson was a beast. Julius Peppers, monster. Patrick Willis, monster. Like, all these guys deserve the Hall of Fame. But how does Antonio Gates not make the Hall of Fame? Like, why does Antonio Gates have to wait to make the Hall of Fame? What is it about Antonio Gates' numbers that prevents him from making the Hall of Fame? The man has 955 career receptions, 11,841 yards, 116 touchdowns. What is it about Antonio Gates that prevents him from being in the Hall of Fame like right now? No wait. Gronk, who everybody agrees is like, top tight end ever, first ballot Hall of Fame. Gronk only has 621 catches, 9,286 yards, 92 touchdowns. People are going to say, well, yeah, he was hurt, but that's part of the game. Its availability is your greatest ability. And yes, I think Gronk was a better tight end than Antonio Gates because Gronk was a freaking monster. He was a blocker. Like, he was a beast. But if we're going to look at the numbers and say Gronk is a first ballot, then Antonio Gates is a first ballot. People are going to say Travis Kelce's a first ballot. Travis Kelce has 907 receptions. Of course, he's still going. 11,328 yards, 74 touchdowns. Like 40 touchdowns behind Antonio Gates. In a pass-happy league, playing with Patrick Mahomes. But people believe Kelsey's going to be a first ballot as soon as he's done. So should Antonio Gates. That's the point I'm making. It's not to diminish those guys. They deserve first ballot. Kelsey's first ballot, 100%. So is Gronk. Antonio Gates got to be first ballot, man. And we're going to say, well, he didn't win a chip. It's not his fault. It's not his fault he didn't play on the best teams. It's not his fault his quarterback wasn't Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. What you want him to do? And Phil was a really great quarterback. But he had his deficiencies. He wasn't in the GOAT talk. So you can't blame Antonio Gates for not having chips, man, because his QB wasn't in the GOAT talk, in the GOAT conversation. His QB wasn't Pat. His QB wasn't freaking Tom Brady. So what do you want him to do? But his numbers tell you ain't that many tight ends better than this cat, man. You talk about tight ends, this cat was best of the best. And you can say, well, he didn't block. Kelsey doesn't block either. Kelsey's just a slow wide receiver. So Antonio, like when I think of Hall of Famers, I think of, okay, can you talk about this particular time period that this player played without mentioning this guy? And you cannot talk about 2010s football, NFL football, without talking about Antonio Gates, man. You cannot. Because he dominated. You couldn't stop this dude. So I don't know what the criteria is for getting into the Hall of Fame, man. But Antonio Gates has my vote, and he 100% deserves it. Those guys who got in deserve it. Antonio Gates deserves it 100%. So if he had played on the Cowboys, he's probably in already. He had played for the Patriots and won chips, he's probably in already. But because it's San Diego, didn't win anything, he gets left over. That one didn't sit right with me, so I had to say something, man. Like, Antonio Gates deserves to be a Hall of Famer now. Like, he's one of those guys, like, there's a 5-year waiting period. He shouldn't even have to wait 5 years. Dude should be in the Hall of Fame immediately. Because when you talk about football in 2010s, tight end in the 2010s, Antonio Gates is first up. But that's how the cookie crumbles, man. That's how it works out. So that puts a bow on an NFL season, y'all. Appreciate y'all watching, as always, listening. Off season is here, but the NBA continues, and I have some heat for y'all, man. Y'all gotta catch my NBA takes. I've been putting some stuff together. It's gonna be good. So y'all come back for that. But I'll catch you guys next time, y'all. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Mike, Sports to the Real. Y'all be good. Peace.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.